When you've worked with small to medium enterprises for 18 years, you get a pretty good sense of what works and what doesn't and how today's entrepreneurs compare with the past. This is the Moneymakers. I'm Bruce Whitfield. Tonight I'm joined by Moneymaker par excellence, Nazeem Martin, outgoing Managing Director of Business Partners, on to reflect on his career and also entrepreneurship in South Africa in general. Have you had an impact? 18 years with Business Partners. Have you made a difference?
I'd like to think so, Bruce.
What do the numbers say? What do the stats say?
Well, certainly from the time that I joined as the head of the property division. A deal I did with my predecessor when he gave me an opportunity to join Business Partners, from government, by the way, at the time. And I've certainly migrated very quickly, not because I asked, but because they thought I could do business investments as well, and finance businesses. Within 2 years I did that, and then certainly we have grown as a company. I think our portfolio of businesses finance has grown considerably, probably from about $1 billion then to $3.5 billion now. From the time that I was given the privilege of becoming the managing director, certainly it has grown from about 1.9 to 3.5. So
3.5 billion rand invested in businesses.
In small businesses.
Of those, what percentage have survived? We're told the stats that 95% of businesses will fail before their first birthday. Now, you don't get involved in those stage businesses. You get involved generally a little bit later.
We do get involved in early stage, some of the time, less than 20% of the time. Our success, I guess, we measure in one of two ways. One, what percentage do we write off as bad debts? And we also measure the level of distress amongst them in terms of the levels of arrears insofar as payments to us is concerned. In the last 5 years, subsequent to the global financial crisis in the 2009 recession, usually there's a bit of a lag. So a year or two later, bad debts peaked. Bad debts as a percentage of the book peaked at about 4.5–5%. And it's currently sitting at about 1.5%.
Okay, so you're down to sort of banking level of bad debts. Banks would like to keep their bad debts below 1%. If you go above that, you're taking too much risk. If you go much lower, you're not taking enough risk. There's a delicate balance there as well. What went wrong when bad debts went up to 5%? Had you not plotted the risk adequately pre-2008?
You see, when things are going up and you're looking at this curve, you don't see the curve coming. And I think we tended to tell ourselves, leading up to 2007 and 2008, that the party can continue. But you know, we're also entrepreneurial, so you don't see the downside. And I think we got caught a little bit. There are some sectors and industries that we might have overdone leading up to 2007, 2008, 2009, including tourism, including
but tourism was such a dead certainty, wasn't it? We had World Cup 2010. The world was going to bring their mothers-in-law and their strings of children. They were going to come to game farms in South Africa. We'd have people queuing around the globe to come. And after 2010, they'd come back again.
That's what we told ourselves.
Yeah. And it didn't really work out that way, did it?
It didn't quite work out that way.
Huge investment in airports, huge investment as a country in airports, in projects like Gautrain, in huge hotel rooms. Just look at City Lodge's recent results. They're just back up to sort of pre-2008 occupancies. It's taken them 7 years to fill the rooms that they built.
You see, let's take tourism. It's an interesting industry because, especially if you're in the tourism accommodation industry, you got a fixed amount that you got to spend in order to get the infrastructure there. It usually costs a lot. You can only charge so much, and you got to get bums in beds.
Yeah.
And sadly, those don't always work out the way you do. And you can't even expand your revenue, because in order to expand revenue, you can't raise your tariffs because everyone else is charging the same tariff. You got to build some more, and when you build some more, it costs a lot more.
Huge amount of capital expenditure required.
A rule of thumb always told us, leading up to the time that we became perhaps too bullish, that if a tourism accommodation business has more than 50% of debt on its balance sheet, then it's going to run into trouble at some point in time. So I put together this fund, that's the tourism fund, tourism SME fund, and we were going to stretch the envelope, which is what we did. We were funding businesses where the gearing or the debt level was above 50%. And lo and behold, when the recession came and so on, we felt the pain. Or our clients felt the pain, and we certainly... The beauty for a finance is, though, is if you're doing tourism accommodation, you're left with a piece of real estate, which you can do other things about, so you can minimize your losses in some way.
You can mitigate that loss, provided the market, of course, is willing to pay you a fair price for the asset that you now sit with, because you don't want to become a tour operator or a B&B owner. You're in business of lending money and getting a return on that money. So tourism burnt you quite badly, but when you look over the years, what's been the biggest mistake? I'll get to the wins in a moment, because there have been some quite spectacular success stories too.
It's hard. I mean, I can tell you about a mistake that I made a long time ago. Fortunately, we haven't lost money on it yet. We got involved in an industry which we knew very little about, so it took us a long time to make the decision. It was in the abalone industry, an abalone farm. Can you believe it, right? Mm-hmm. We were approached by these wonderful people, an amazing team. They had put together the aquarium at the V&A waterfront. They were using amazing technology, recirc, which we thought was amazing at the time. But you know, these are live things, and when you recircle the water, then all the germs don't get out, and the bacteria stays in there. So we lost the farm, we lost all the animals. Fortunately, there was a piece of real estate underpinning this transaction, which meant that we could convert our share in the operating business into a real estate development that is taking place in Kleinmond, which is a really nice place.
No, but I mean, you've got to be massively flexible. You've done the investing. What makes a great South African entrepreneur? Because you would have seen all shapes, colours, sizes, ages come through your doors over the years. Are there common traits that exist?
I think there are common traits. Some people will take that question and ask you, is an entrepreneur born, or can you teach an entrepreneur? I think if you are born with certain gifts and you don't practice and you don't improve yourself with regards to those particular talents, innate talents that you have, you're not going to be successful. So of course there are certain skills which you need, which would be great if you were born with it. It will make you a successful entrepreneur. But if you don't practice, if you don't get a bit more education, if you don't hone the skills, you're going to be in trouble. There are other skills which are required to be a successful entrepreneur, which can be taught. Let's take all of them. I mean, the first skill that an entrepreneur needs is, it must be a person who can spot an opportunity or spot a challenge or fulfill a need which even people out there don't think
lots of us are very good at spotting challenges, needs and difficulties and all sorts of things, but very few of us are able to spot the solutions to those problems and to see through the considerable twists and turns and turmoil that can beset that ultimate prize.
But it goes one step further. Even if you can spot the challenge, even if you can come up with the solutions, you must have the ability and the desire and the courage to act on that. If you can't act on it, you're also not going to get anywhere. And that can, things like that can be taught. Let's start at the beginning. Spotting opportunities. If we all are serious about this, and we sit at the dinner table at night and we talk to our children about current affairs, preferably not politics, rather business, and seeing opportunities, you could encourage that. When your little boy goes to school and it's market day, instead of buying something from your nearest supermarket and tell him to go and sell that, why don't you help him bake a cake or do something?
It's that conversation, absolutely. That conversation you have with a 6-year-old, and the 6-year-old says to you, so how do you start a business? And you go, it's working. And you become quite grateful for that, because there's far too many people in this country don't have the environment where that can be nurtured. That environment can be nurtured. People are too busy scraping together a living to survive and are in the survivalist mode. Lindiwe Zulu, is she making an impact in the world of small business and entrepreneurship?
I think she's saying some of the right things.
She's been in the job for more than a year. What has she done?
I don't think much has been done so far from where I sit. I don't see much has been done. I think there's a lot of talking still taking place. I think she had a bit of a fight on her hands to colonize her little empire, because it was carved out from other government departments. You know, jealously people guard their turf and so on, even though they may be from the same party or they may be colleagues. I think that's taken some time. I think she has some people who are advising her. Some are good and some may not be that good. Because she didn't know much about small business when she got into this. She was actually in international relations. So I think she's used the opportunity to understand the space. She's made some noises, for example, procuring from small business. Because remember, the single biggest procurer in our economy is government.
Absolutely.
And if they can have set-asides and say up to 30% or whatever the figure is, they will procure from small businesses. If they can do it properly, if they can more importantly insist that those government departments who procure from small business pay them on time, because
that's been one of the biggest bugbears. I mean, the president in various speeches, especially around budget day, he makes speeches, and then you will see the 3 speeches after budget day. He will say, and my big ambition now is to get government to pay within 30 days. And nothing ever changes. That's got to be a big killer for anybody who's serving government.
It is. It's a little bit like somebody coming to us and saying that they've got this contract with, pick your favorite retailer, one of your favorite ones in the country, Woolworths, Pick and Pay, whatever, and they've got this contract with us, and now they want funding from us. And I look at this application and
you've seen this movie before.
I've seen this movie a couple of times before. So how long are they going to take to pay you? Because some of them are notorious for paying you 60 days and 90 days. They've taken your money and churned it a couple of times, and meanwhile you are waiting, and you've incurred the expenses, and you've got labour to pay and everything else, and that can kill you. So the same applies to government. I'm not. Until we see a meaningful change in payment patterns, then I think we have a challenge, and we certainly won't jump and say we're going to finance this until we have. If
Nazeem Martin can make one big impact, it would be to get that payment sorted out.
If she can persuade her colleagues in cabinet to insist on their departments that they should pay within 30 days, if there can be some kind of incentive and or a penalty for those officials who don't, and be serious about it, then I think we stand a chance.
What does Nazeem Martin do now? You've been with business partners for 18 years. You've retired now. There's stories,
not yet.
But you're retiring. There's stories of you going back to Cape Town and sort of giving back on the Cape Flats, that sort of stuff.
I grew up at the intersection of 3 of Cape Town's probably, or the Cape Flats' most notorious gang-infested, drug-infested areas. Area kind of bounded by Retreat, Steenberg, Lavendale. It's a tough place to grow up in. I was lucky to, in inverted commas, make it out of there because I had an amazing mother who was a bit of a slave driver, because I had a wonderful principal. I'm the youngest of 8 kids, so I come from a big family. None of them went to university. I had an amazing principal at high school who filled in all the forms and said, take it back and ask your mother to sign it. And it was an application for a bursary and for university. Right? So I had wonderful people in my life who played a role. I want to go back and change the life of, if I can just change the life of one person,
Make it a bit more than that. Make it a bit more than that. Nazeem Martin, I mean, Trevor Manuel tells the same sort of story. Edward Kieswetter tells the same sort of story. That's you guys grew up together.
Trevor was a little bit older than me, but he and my brother were of the same age. So that's what I want to go and do. And if I can, so I'm going to do something which I haven't done for more than 30 years. I'm going to take a sabbatical. I have some plans which I'm going to finalize during that period of sabbatical. This is from August next year until December. From January 2017, I want to be up and running and making a difference in the community that's spawned me.
There we go. What a fabulous story. Nazeem Martin, thank you very much. The insider view of the SME landscape in South Africa. My thanks to my guest, Nazeem Martin, the outgoing Managing Director of Business Partners. There'll be more ways to make money tomorrow evening, and we'll talk to the people who make that money and help others, in this case, make that money. Good night for now. Bye-bye.